Hello, and welcome to the Fear Channel, a channel with regular broadcasts telling the most chilling of urban legends, ghost stories, and forays into the darkest corners of the human mind. Those faint of heart or prone to night terrors should proceed at their own risk. Tonight's story is the Pascagoula Abduction. The year was 1973, just outside of Pascagoula, Mississippi. Two local dock workers decided to take a late-night fishing excursion near the banks of the Pascagoula River. On the night of October 11th, 42-year-old Charles Hickson and 19-year-old Calvin Parker set off for what they hoped would be a relaxing evening of canoeing and fishing. What would transpire shortly before their trip would shock and haunt them for the rest of their lives. Shortly after arriving at the dock, the men heard a whirring sound. They looked up to see a 30 to 40 foot ovular craft with blue lights landing near them. It lowered to about 2 feet above the ground and remained there hovering for the duration of the encounter. It was then that three beings emerged from the craft. They were roughly humanoid in shape. Their skin was gray and wrinkly like that of an elephant. They had no hair or eyes, just a slit for a mouth, and carrot-like protrusions where their nose and ears should have been. Their arms were long, and instead of hands they had lobster-like pincers. While they appeared to have separations for two separate legs, their legs were actually attached together. The beings did not need their leg structures to walk, but were able to float wherever they pleased. Hickson and Parker were soon paralyzed by a mysterious force, and levitated by the creatures onto the craft. While aboard, they went through a strange medical procedure that involved a complete body scan and injections into their reproductive organs. Hickson said he was levitated a few feet off the ground during the procedure, and that he was examined by a large football-shaped mechanical eye. Parker said he was laid down on a sloped table and was examined by a short female being. Parker was the most afraid during the encounter and claims to have passed out during part of the experience. Afterwards, the two men were levitated back down onto the docks just a few feet away from the spot where they were taken along the riverbank. After the incident, the men decided it would be best to report what happened to the police. Hickson and Parker went to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department in hopes of making a report. Soon the two men were interrogated. During the questioning, Sheriff Frederick Diamond questioned over the details repeatedly to make sure that there weren't any inconsistencies in their stories. During the interrogation, Sheriff Diamond left a tape recorder hidden in a location in the room. He set it to record and left the men to continue talking amongst themselves. Sheriff Diamond assumed that if they were lying, that fact would become immediately apparent when the two spoke privately. He expected the men to break character and start joking about the incident, and how they threw the sheriff and the deputies for a loop. Instead, they continued to talk in a distressed tone about being paralyzed, wanting to see a doctor, and needing a drink. Both men thought they were going half crazy. Sheriff Diamond was thoroughly convinced that the two men believed everything that they were talking about. Years later, Hickson agreed to partake in a polygraph test, which he passed. In 2001, retired naval officer Mike Caltado revealed that on the night of October 11th, 1973, he observed a strange tambourine-shaped object near Route 90 heading out of Pascagoula. Parker claimed to have another experience several years later, in which she was taken aboard a similar craft, and met with the same female who examined him years before. He had a conversation with the being in English, in which she communicated to him a religious message. She informed him that they shared the same God, that the Bible was an authentic text, and that her species wanted to live on Earth, but could not due to humanity's tendency towards war and destruction.